Everybody, it's Ricky here, and I spent the last 8 months using the Galaxy S24 Ultra to answer one question. Is AI really the future of smartphones? But before we dive into that, I want to talk about the device that houses it all. The Galaxy S24 Ultra is the king of Android smartphones. The last few years, it has been basically untouched, sitting on top of the throne with all the latest performance, the best display, the highest megapixel cameras with very solid camera performance, all along with, honestly, the best software suite that Samsung's ever shipped on their phones. The Snapdragon Gen 8 III is incredibly fast. I don't really get what the 4 Galaxy thing means, because all of the tests that I have seen have really pointed towards there really not being much of a gain. But if you're really looking for the best of the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, you can go look at a gaming phone and they will actually push it to its limits. The new vapor chamber does a pretty solid job of keeping the phone cool, but when we were doing a bit more testing and showing it side by side, this phone, just like the iPhone 15 Pro Max, still after a few minutes with the display going at its full 2600 nits, was still find itself dropping down quite a bit in brightness. The vapor chamber does its job, but it still will not stop hot weather. This phone has perks that no other phone has. The S Pen itself gives this phone the ability to do things that nothing else really can apart from other Samsung devices, and even still, no other phone currently packs one within the device. So if you're someone who needs to go and sign documents or needs to annotate various things, this is literally the best phone you can buy right now. Samsung walks into the year and drops their best foot forward and then basically just meanders through the rest of the year, dropping a couple of foldables in the middle of summer, and then we wait till January again to see what the next Galaxy is. And this is far above and away the most refined flagship Galaxy phone. I don't think it's a surprise to anybody. I think Samsung's report card with these phones has shown steady A's for the last few years. I want to talk about the design of this phone, and I think this is far above and away Samsung's most refined design, for the Ultra at least. I think it's a cleaner cutout for the camera. It's a pretty decent design. I think the flat display is a very welcome return. The whole era of rounded edges is something that existed, but it's always been a gimmick and sucked to use. So to finally have a flat display on the most high-end version of Samsung's phone is very welcome, and I'm excited to see what they do in the future. Personally, I am not a fan of these sharp corners. While it does give you just a little bit more display, I'm willing to sacrifice parts of the display I just don't use. Every other device has rounded these corners out to be more comfortable and more form-fitting to your hand. These sharp corners have got to go. So I'm hoping for the next generation, Samsung will finally just remove that little edge. Next up, I want to talk about the display. And guys, the Galaxy S24 Ultra has a killer display, but competition has gotten fierce. Apple's brought out incredible OLED displays that also feature high peak brightness. Google just recently brought out the new Pixel line that have incredible brightness. So Samsung is no longer just the de facto leader in displays. We are starting to find that some more color accurate displays are on the iPhone, or that the Google Pixel display is actually brighter than the S24 Ultra. These are awesome features to have. I will personally admit you can't really tell the difference between 2600 nits and 3000 nits outside in peak sunlight. It's exciting to see what Samsung will do in retaliation now that other people are starting to catch up. And again, I'm not trying to just nitpick for the sake of nitpicking. This is an incredible display and one that I would be perfectly happy with if I had to use this as my only device. But in a world where there are a multitude of phones that are vying for your purchase, it's no longer the standout of the bunch. There's great displays on multiple phones. In fact, you can get 90% of this display on smaller siblings of this phone. This display not having really incredible features that really make it stand above the rest is something that I'm hoping to see Samsung diverse their portfolio with in the future. The battery life on this phone is absolutely incredible. There is really nothing else like it on the Android side, apart from, up until now, the new Google Pixel, which I'm still testing. But it's going to take a minute before I trust that phone the way I trusted this one. But the fact that at this point in time, this phone is not shipping with G2, so you don't get the magnets built in, which honestly, we're kind of past the point of it just being an Apple exclusive feature. It's useful to have the magnets, guys. Like, phones need to be shipping with it. Like, let's start putting that G2 and everything so that you can mount this phone without a case. I don't want to have to buy a case and cover up this incredible design just to put my phone on a stand. I have an incredible 3-in-1 stand I like to use for my iPhone, and I'd love to be able to dock this phone on there as well. There's plenty of room. So here's to hoping that in the future, Samsung will add that, and then let's just also cross our fingers for better wired charging. Now, let's talk a little bit about cameras. Now, the cameras on this phone are good. They are consistent. I would say this is the most consistent set of cameras an Android phone can carry. Let me expand on that a little bit. The main sensor, the ultra wide, the 5x zoom, we'll not really talk about the 3x zoom. Honestly, it is a waste of a lens. But the other three, are very good cameras. The 5x zoom in particular is a standout feature on this phone. I don't think the video quality is there yet to rely on this over my iPhone. I do feel that the front-facing camera is one of the most consistent. And again, if it wasn't for newer phones being released, this would have been the top dog. The selfie camera is good. I do feel for me that a lot of the automatic correction and tuning from Samsung phones isn't really what I look for in a phone photo. I want my photo to be as neutral and more lifelike as possible than a ready to post on Instagram photo. That's just me, but I know plenty of people, if you guys haven't watched already, MKBHD does a great blind smartphone test that really proves this. A lot more people than you think just want the most contrasty photo, whatever has the most punch and is bright. But for me, I don't really find that useful. I want to tune my photos. I want to actually take my phone out and edit that photo, or I want to take my laptop out and I want to go into Lightroom and I want to change things around and I want the most neutral photo I can have. I think a lot of people would be incredibly impressed by what this phone has had to offer. And I think in terms of a overall package, the fact that you get an incredible suite of cameras, one of the best video recording experiences on Android, on top of everything else this phone has to offer, it's a complete deal. If I were looking to buy a phone purely for the camera or purely for the video experience, I would look elsewhere. But if you are looking at something that's a complete package, this phone is really close to that. Now on to the biggest question of today's video. Has the Galaxy AI implementation changed how I used my phone? In short, absolutely not, but I think it's something worth expanding upon. I think that 2024 is the year that every single manufacturer is addressing their customers' excitement for AI. This can show up in a myriad of different ways. You can see it coming out in assistant-like software, so Google Assistant getting updates. You can see it come out in like additional enhancements, like being able to translate faster. Or you can see it in gimmicky features like image generation and things that you really just won't use more than a couple of times. I think that Samsung being so early this year into the revolution of AI has resulted in this particular phone's offering an AI to perhaps be the weakest. I think that the multitude of features offered here are not anything that I see myself using. We did sit down and test the Note Assist feature, and it had multiple words that were wrong and even speakers that were mislabeled. Both me and my wife have distinctly different voices. So the fact that the phone was getting the two of us mixed up is not the greatest showing of AI, but the fact that it was running off of a hotspot in the middle of 90-degree weather and did a pretty okay job at it it's cool. But I think a lot of phones are shipping with this. Nothing here feels original to Samsung. There's no particular actual Galaxy AI thing that is here that is killer. Something that I would use every single day. Having a version of Magic Eraser is great, but the Google Pixel has it and it's had it for over a year now. Circle to search is a handy feature when you need to circle to search. It's not often that I'm watching something and I'm like, oh, I want to know what that car is, or I want to know what shoes they're wearing. I know that I'm not the target. It's not a feature that I feel like is completely useless, but I've just had to realize that it's just not for me. And more than anything, I find myself accidentally activating it on these phones because of the way that you activate it. I think next year and the year after that is going to be when we really start to see the big changes in AI. I'm really looking forward to what Samsung does with their next generation, what One UI 7 brings in terms of AI. But for now, I don't see anything on here as something that is a killer feature. If you don't have all these things on your phone and you're looking for a specific feature, you can download decent apps that do 90% of these functions on your existing hardware. There's no real reason to upgrade to just this for AI features because the Google Pixel 9 Pro XL or even the Google Pixel from last year could do 90% of it with a software update. What's the hardware reason that you need to buy this phone to do X feature that is actually a good feature that you're going to use every single day? And we'll have to see what they actually bring to the table in the coming years. The Galaxy S24 Ultra is an incredible phone. It is the flagship of flagships if you're on the Android side of the table. It features some of the best cameras you can get in a smartphone. It features one of the best displays you can get in a smartphone, all wrapped neatly into a body that also packs a pen for when you do need to sign something. There's nothing else like it. There's nothing else in its bracket because it has things that nobody else does. But in a world where we're all trying to just pack as many AI features that really don't mean much into these devices that won't really change your day-to-day usage, and in a world where other manufacturers have pushed the boundaries in their respective categories, this feels like the best overall most well-rounded phone, but nothing on here feels very Samsung. Nothing here feels really to their identity as being the best at something. So I think that's why for me, I have sat this phone down and I'm going to be using the Google Pixel 9 Pro XL. And if you are interested in what Google has to offer, I did drop my first impressions of the brand new Google Pixel 9 Pro XL, which you can find up here. Other than that, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.